Hi there, Dr. Carmen McGuinness here with you. Today, as promised, we are going to talk about using visualization for relaxation and maintaining a sense of calm in these very troubling times. So last week, for those of you who were here, you know we spoke about breath work, using breath work for the same reasons. If you haven't yet viewed that, please do. I'm going to put a link right here. Actually, I think it's over there, for you to link in and watch that maybe before you watch this or certainly afterward, because what I'm going to propose today is that you combine the two. So stay with me. If you haven't tried visualization before, I think you're really going to enjoy it, and I think you'll find it to be particularly helpful right now with everything that's going on in the world. So let's talk first about what it is, and then just very briefly about when to do it, how to use it, and then we'll talk about what to visualize, which will be the bulk of my talk here today. So visualization is a means for using the senses internally, our memory of the senses, so that we can take sights and sounds and sensations, smells, temperatures that we have experienced before and imagine them internally in our mind. So although the term visualization refers to the visual system, the use of visualization as a means of relaxing may and should, if it's going to be really effective, involve all of the senses, imagining all of the senses. So what it actually is in the brain, we can think of it somewhere between beta, which is sort of consciousness, and theta, which is our subconscious. So it's a small sort of bubble, literally, in there, in between, called alpha waves. So when we're in alpha waves, we might be drifting off to sleep, or we might be having a light cat nap, or we might be meditating, or we might be visualizing. So when to do it? We will do visualization certainly whenever we feel stressed, which we are feeling right now, many of us. And we will also do it preventatively, and this is very, very important. Just like breath work, we want to use visualization on a regular basis. Daily would be great. Twice a day would be fabulous. Just to relax and to get in touch with that sense of relaxation that may be missing right now as we all struggle with a pandemic. So we're going to want to do it at least once a day, and twice if possible. And then certainly do it if you feel stressed out. If you are in a state, you've just heard something on the news or something, and you can get yourself calm with your breath work that we worked on again last week, then once you're a little bit calmer, just find a quiet place and sit and do some visualization. Now, this is a procedure that you can take 5 minutes to do. It really doesn't take long. When you get good at it, you could do it in a minute, and that minute will feel like it's timeless. But when you first start doing it, I highly recommend that you set aside 10 to 15 minutes. 20 would be ideal because we go through a full cycle in 20 minutes. So let's talk a little bit about what to visualize. Because I often find, interestingly, that when I work with this with clients, I find that that's their first hurdle, is they can't really think about what they should visualize. First point is, try not to visualize anything that's going to involve music or conversation. We really want to try to leave words and language out of this as much as possible. So don't visualize a conversation with someone. That would be more of what we call in hypnosis a white room approach, where we might put ourselves in a room and have a conversation with someone that we can't actually have that conversation with in a hypnotic state. That's a totally different process and shouldn't be confused with visualization for relaxation. So interaction with nature is awesome. Warm sand, sunlight, gentle breezes, all wonderful things to imagine. Also sounds. So the sounds of birds, for instance, or maybe rain, or a little thunder, light thunder in the background, something like that. Something that makes you feel soothed and relaxed. Interaction with animals is okay because, of course, they don't have language. So one of the visualizations that a client uses quite often that he's had tremendous success with, when he was a young boy, his family rescued a baby deer. Its mother had been hit by a car, and they rescued it and nurtured it for a few weeks, maybe a few months, I'm not sure, until the baby deer was able to go free. They lived in the woods, in rural area. And he frequently uses his time with that deer as his visualization. So he remembers the sensation of the deer's ears and the soft fur behind its ears and under its neck. And he will think about that while he's visualizing. He remembers the touch and the warmth of the deer. Different perspectives is also a good thing to do when you visualize. So, for instance, getting yourself into a situation where you're not usually in. So, for instance, many of us have spent time on the beach, but maybe not as much time in the surf. So if you imagine yourself rolling with the surf and seeing the beach from the surf, it's a different perspective. Seeing the ground from flight. I frequently will, in my visualization, fly around my neighborhood and just sort of look down on the roofs and the people walking and dogs barking, birds flying beneath me, that sort of thing. Now, on the topic of flight, start in places that you know well. Don't just try to take yourself to Cairo and go over the pyramids if you haven't been to Cairo. So your back garden, for instance, or your neighborhood, as I just exemplified, or perhaps a park near you, somewhere that you know. And then move on to places that you love, but that are perhaps less familiar. I spent several years during my childhood in Florence, Italy, and I was very much involved in art. I was studying to be an artist, and in my visualizations, I will sometimes fly over Il Duomo, which is a beautiful building in Florence, or the Piazza di Michelangelo, which is up on a hillside overlooking Florence. And remember to take the taste and smell and texture and temperature and sounds of things into every visualization. Don't leave that behind. I have a client that I really had to work a lot with that on. She would get well into her visualization, and then she would hear some sound from the outside world and snap out of it. So it's important to hear the sounds that are in your internal image rather than those that would come up in the neighborhood or in the house. Now, some things are more powerful than others to visualize. I like to use the example of a lemon for this. This is an example that Stephen Hayes uses when he talks about staying present and being mindful. It's very difficult to not imagine or not experience what would happen if you actually put a lemon in your mouth. I've got one right here, actually, from my garden. And seeing the visual might help you realize what I'm talking about. It's sort of tangy and makes your mouth do watery things. So take things like that are a little bit more intense for you when you first start out, and it will give you, I think, the confidence to understand that you really can do this. You can set yourself into a very different state. And just as a reminder, that state can be good or bad. So, when we watch TV, we watch the news right now, we do get kind of hypnotized, and we end up in those images, in those hospital rooms, in the office of, whoever is being interviewed or whatever's going on. So it's very important to reclaim our internal world and keep the good images coming while we go through this process. And then last but not least, I just want to remind you to use your breath work with this. If you are laying down or sitting somewhere quiet, close your eyes to visualize for a few moments. Hearing your own breath can really set you into a very calm state to get you started with the process. And then last but not least, I know I said that was last, but this actually is. I just want to remind you to do this as a preventative, not just as an emergency gesture when you get really stressed out. What I've been doing is in the morning when I wake up, I just take a few minutes in bed before I get out of bed, and I just think about the day, what I'm going to see today. I'm going to see my garden, I'm going to make my coffee, I'm going to sit in my garden, I'm going to listen to the birds sing, I'm going to watch the sun come up. So that sort of sets my day. And then in the evening, not at bedtime, but when I want to settle down and enjoy the rest of the evening, I'll just tell my family that I'm going to have a cat nap, but what I'm really doing is going in and just lying on my bed and taking a few minutes to set myself into a different place, into a different space, and into a different mindset, more relaxed and calm world. So I certainly hope this has been helpful. I look forward to seeing you for my midweek sneak peek this Wednesday. We will be talking next week about using progressive muscle relaxation to help you go to sleep at night during this difficult time. And just a reminder, all of these skills that I've been working with you on over the last couple of weeks and going forward, these are life skills that can help you in any situation, not just today in time of coronavirus, but going forward as well. Again, I hope this has been helpful, and I look forward to seeing you for my midweek sneak peek on Wednesday.